Okay, um, so Jasper, where do I begin with you on this? First of all, there is a fundamental difference between male at birth and male assigned at birth. Male at birth is being born with a male body, and that includes the brain. Um, it's kind of difficult to have a person without a brain. I mean, David Cameron manages to appoint cabinet ministers who do that fairly well. But it's difficult. It's pretty hard, and there's only so many half-hour time slots that Fox News can fill between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And then you run out of people without brains. Secondly, no, dude, Julia Sereno is, well, dudette. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah, I mean dude in the gender-neutral sense. Anyway, trans women are hated for their femininity because that femininity violates a cultural feminist taxonomy that men are haters of all which is female, and thus they feel the need to possess, colonize, and destroy it. And thus, see my taxonomy, therefore, trans women must be man, because otherwise my bullshit rhetoric stops making sense, and now all of a sudden, my hatred of trans women now just makes me look like someone who's enforcing my own set of gender policing. And I can't possibly have that, so they must just be misogynistic. Yes, it must be their male privilege which allows them to transition, and then I will completely invisibilate trans men. Or it must be misogyny that makes trans men transition, and therefore I will completely erase trans women. And then I will be best friends with the other blogger who says the exact same thing. But enough about, other people on the internet. So yes, trans women are hated because their femininity violates that essentialist dichotomy that believes that sex is gender. And you mentioned male socialization as though we try to erase the fact that it ever happened. Let me make a fundamental distinction. I know what it is like to be treated as a male. I do not know what it is like to be a male. I do not know what it is like to take pleasure in many things that men take pleasure in. I don't know what it's like to feel the same way about a relationship with a woman as a straight man feels, being a trans lesbian. I just don't. And so, while I may have seen male socialization much closer up, like an involuntary Jane Goodall, I still picked up all the girl cues. I remember, I think, two very illustrative stories, and one might be triggering, just to warn you in advance, so if you don't want to continue watching, you don't have to. But two interesting stories. I remember when I was in grade 8, and someone said, boy name, well, have a look at your nails. And I looked at them like this. Of course, there wasn't polish on them. I haven't had polish on these since I was 6, I think, was the last time. I kind of like the shade. Anyway, that's beside the point. And I looked at them like this, with the fingers outspread. And everyone laughed at me and, said some wonderfully homophobic and femphobic things. And so I spent the next 2 weeks just in class, just practicing, looking at them with the nails turned in. And, practice becomes habit. Being forced to pass as male, having feminine mannerisms corrected, which has happened. Which happened when I was 8 and 12 and 14 and 16 and 24. Having those corrected becomes a sort of learned male gendering as coping mechanism. I mean, you try to be a man because that's the only way that people won't beat the shit out of you. And that's somewhat germane to this next point. Kind of a triggering narrative here. So again, I warn anyone who may have issues with violation to stop watching now. I was 15, and I was a volunteer for the high school's radio station, which was, radio station being glorified speaker, CD player hooked up to speakers in the cafeteria. And one of the boys in my grade came up to me and rubbed his hand vigorously across my chest. And I had had visible breasts from 12 on. I'd always been overweight or fat or whatever you wish to call it. And I told him to stop. I told him to stop in the microphone. There were 150, 100 people at least. Our school had a population of about 1,000. There were staff workers there. There were students there. And no one did anything. And this actually went on for a couple of days, and I didn't do anything about it. That's not gendering someone as male. That's also not gendering someone as female, because we were told quite clearly that rape culture was not okay. I remember being in the same classroom as this classmate 3 years before, when it was made very clear to us that no, you don't violate someone like that. That's not right. You don't violate... Sorry, let me clarify that you don't violate a girl like that. That's not right. But that's wrong on so many levels. And that's what it's like to be not respected as a man or a woman. And that's a big part of transmisogyny, is not being gendered properly because it violates someone's taxonomy. People who are so desperate trying to create a little dividing line between boy and girl so that they somehow won't be gay when they fap. Of course, I am gay. For girls. Men, on the other hand, unless you're going to take estrogen, I'm not going to be into you. But that's just my brainstem talking. Well, mainly my brainstem talking. And my voice talking. And everything else about me talking. So, I think that's enough points to make. Other than that, until next time, Jess.